Welcome to the Middle School Bookmarker Show. My name's Brianna.
And I'm Chris. We are teachers reading this middle school novel for the very first time. We hope you will read it along with us and then listen to our conversations about it.
This week we're covering Schooled by Gordon Korman, and we just read chapters 30 and 31 to finish the book. So if you haven't read those chapters, go do that now.
Oh, and by the way, we're going to get this whole thing done in just 11 minutes because 11 minutes is all you need to
finish your first middle school bookmarkers book and be very happy to be called a freakazoid.
So chapter 30, we pick up with Zach Powers. And Zach is a little bit in shock right now. He describes it as being struck by lightning because Cap has just stood up at his own memorial service and said, "Hey guys, I'm still alive." So Hugh, who was on top of the speaking platform, dives away because he was just hamming it up about how much he missed Cap. The kids swarm, the other students, the other 1,100 students, they swarm Cap, and there's all these mixed reactions. Some of them are shocked, some of them don't believe it, some of them are really happy, some of them are saying, "We love you, Cap." Zach mentions that he feels that this is louder than any football game he's ever been to.
Yeah, Zach is kind of just blown away by this whole thing. He can't believe that everything Cap seems to do outshines everything Zach does, no matter what. So Cap even tries to start talking, and he's not loud enough because only the people in the front rows can hear him. So Naomi actually finds wherever the mic fell, where Hugh dropped it, to give it to him. And the first thing he says after about 6 minutes of applause, according to Zach's count, is this the Halloween dance?
And so picture this situation. There's a huge gathering of kids, over 1,000 kids. He has no idea what's going on. He's completely ignorant to this entire situation. He's not even sure if this is a Halloween dance. So he pops up and he says, "Thanks for worrying about me, guys. I'm not dead, though. I just had to go home." He talks about how he lives at Garland. And then he notices on the very edge of the crowd, Rain is there. He had left a note for Rain saying he was coming to the dance. I guess she decided to come and do something. I don't know. But she's wearing her hippie stuff. She's the only adult there wearing tie-dye and yin-yangs, that kind of thing. And he says, "I'm sorry, Rain. I'm sorry that I came. I just wanted to see what a dance was like, and I didn't get an opportunity to say goodbye." So then Cap starts saying goodbye. What does he do?
So instead of just saying goodbye, everybody, he starts going down the row of kids and saying goodbye to each and every one of them individually by name. So he's just going down the row of kids saying goodbye you, like using their names for all 1,100 kids.
Oh, man, I have difficulty memorizing when I have new students every year. I usually have 75 to 120 kids. I can't remember. I have difficulty memorizing their names. It usually takes me a couple months. Cap has sat there with those books and saying hi to everybody in school, and he's memorized everyone's names. It's pretty incredible. Cap finally, after a huge amount of time, he finishes and he tries to kind of quietly just leave, but everybody swarms him and they lift him up in the air and they're cheering. And even Zach finally comes around because at this point I forgot Zach was the narrator as I was reading. Mm-hmm. But Zach says, "You know what? I'm going to go support Cap too. I need to make things up with my friends and become friends with them again." He talks about how even that hippie loving friends, they're better than no friends at all.
Yeah, and it's really interesting because then Cap goes back up to Rain. And this was the part where I also forgot that Zach was the narrator because he's asking if Rain is mad at him, and she's like, "Oh no, not she wasn't mad at all. She's and then you hear the argument with Mrs. Donnelly and Rain talking about the checks and how it's Rain's fault that Cap doesn't know what anything means. And so it's interesting to see Rain's reaction to that.
And then they eventually storm out and Cap and Rain leave for Garland. That's how the chapter ends, except that Zach notices two different characters. He notices that the other character that was in the mini mask that had accompanied Capricorn to this dance was this really good looking, as he describes it, high school student named Sophie. So he's again further impressed by Cap. Cap brought a high school girl to the dance. He also notices Hugh, and the very last thing that we hear from Zach is him talking about how, you know what, Hugh was loyal to me. I'm really starting to appreciate that guy. And that is how the second to last chapter concludes, bringing us to chapter 31, our final chapter with Capricorn.
So the last chapter starts off very similar to the first chapter of the book, with Cap being arrested again for driving without a license. But not only is he arrested for driving without a license, he's arrested for driving on property of this real estate agency. And Cap is very confused because he's like, oh, well, this is Garland property. And the officers basically tell him, no, it's not. It's the property of this real estate company.
And Cap is baffled, but he's pretty passive. So he goes with them, gets arrested, goes to the sheriff's office. He knows that Rain is going to be mad about this mix-up with this real estate company because Rain does not like big companies. Although Rain's been acting differently lately. She's been quieter. She's been listening to the same songs over and over. They specifically mention a song by Bob Dylan called The Times Are Changin'. And I think actually maybe you might see a video from the bookmarkers breaking down that song eventually, because I think it would be a good connection to this. But she's sitting around and she's kind of acting a little bit sad. So there's a point where she's listening to that song, Times Are Changing, and Cap actually turns to Rain and says, well, you know, Bob Dylan's right. And Rain responds, and the way Rain responds is she looks sad. She says that she used to think that change was a choice, and that if you stick to your convictions, you actually don't have to change if you think that you're like morally right. But she's not sure anymore.
Yeah, I thought that was really interesting to see kind of that side of Rain that we haven't seen before, because she was always so grounded in her beliefs, and now it's kind of, she's moving into a sort of acceptance stage.
It's almost like her experiences have changed her for the better.
Yeah, absolutely.
Ding, ding, ding. English class stuff.
And then we have Cap, who is kind of struggling a bit to fit in anywhere, because he, you know, went through this whole experience at this school, and so he doesn't really feel like Garland feels right anymore, because now he's met all these people and it's not just him and Rain anymore, and he's had these other experiences, and he talks about how he's learned a lot of things, and I was laughing at all of the things he was remembering he learned. Everything about the checks, and how when you have a checking account and you write a check, the money comes out of that, so it's not like an infinite amount of money. Duct tape can't fix everything. He remembers what lockers are, and watching Trigonometry in Tears. He wishes he got to see what a real dance was. The Giga Volumizer shampoo, and words he learned. And so he's just kind of recalling some of the highlights, I guess, of his trip to Sea Average.
But Cap comments that he's mostly learned one thing, and that is that there's so much to learn out there, which is a great attitude to have. He says that he's conflicted because Garland is his home, but there's so many things, exciting things to learn about out there. It's so tempting. So all of a sudden, a fancy Mercedes rolls up. Rain rolls out. She's got new hair, new clothes. She's got a cell phone. And we find out that it wasn't a real estate mix-up. She actually sold Garland. It's revealed that she, 40 years ago, bought Garland with some money she had borrowed from her parents, and she wanted to make it a commune where everybody was equal, including her, even though she owned it. So it's her right to sell it right now. She also says how she made a deal with the builders that this isn't going to be just a community with giant mansions for the rich. She wants all income levels to be able to afford it. And she also made sure that there's going to be a flower garden in there. Brianna, you pick up the next point about the legal right to sell?
Yes. So the first thing that stood out to me that I do want to mention is she sold it for $17 million, which I was kind of like, I had to stop and be like, wow, that's a lot of money. Like, because at first I was like, why is she rolling up in a Mercedes? But makes sense now. And so the reason that Rain has the legal right to sell is because she was gifted the property by her parents. So even though it was a commune where everybody lived, Rain had her name on the deed to the property. So it was always her property to do with as she pleased. And she says that she decided to do it now because it's for Cap, and she wants Cap to have a life outside of Garland and outside of this lifestyle when she eventually does pass on.
And so we actually have no idea how much time has gone by because we had to pause in the middle of this because of a loud garbage truck. So let's pretend there are 45 seconds left starting now. All right, so $17 million. They talk about how Cap had this really good idea to do with the money, with the checks, to create a foundation to give to other charities. And she says, that's part of what we're going to do. She says the 60s might be over, but the spirit of the 60s, that giving, sharing mentality, it's still very strong. So Rain then says, I arrange for you to stay someplace while I'm taking care of some business. And Rain hands a cell phone to Capricorn.
And he hears none other than Sophie's voice saying, hey, Freakazoid, I heard you're moving back in. And so Cap is going to be staying with the Donnellys while Rain gets some things in order. And not only that, but he's going back to see Average Middle School.
What a beautiful, happy ending. All right, guys. Very last thing. Please make sure you hit the like, subscribe, hit that bell, whatever stuff is down there that YouTube throws down there. And that would really support the show. So if you stuck with us for this whole thing, thank you so much. And we really hope that this helped you understand the book a little bit better so you can bring it into your life, so you can use these lessons for your life. We'll see you later.